Golden Lab sits alongside Motorsport Manager and F1 Manager series as one of the most recognizable motorsport management games in recent years. And while it faces competition from these established titles, it still manages to define its own unique identity. It simplifies the formula by stripping away complexity to focus on the essentials of motorsport management. But when you remove these layers of complexity, do you reveal brilliance or do you expose a lack of depth? I'm not entirely sure why it is taking me so long to get my hands on this game. As a big fan of management games, and for someone who has played quite a few motorsport sims over the years, Golden Lab just seemed right down my alley. However, I also enjoy management games that allows for customization, that lets you put your own personal stamp on things and fine-tune every little detail. And maybe that's why it's only now a year and a half after release that I'm finally sitting down to play Golden Lab. The developer Funselektor Labs is also behind the successful titles Absolute Drift and Art of Rally, and they are soon to be releasing what is likely to be their most ambitious project to date, Over the Hill, which I will definitely be keeping an eye on as well. So Golden Lab stands out a bit from Funselektor's previous titles by being a management game, where Absolute Drift, Art of Rally and Over the Hill are more traditional driving games with direct control of the cars. So why a management game? The idea actually goes further back than you might think, but we'll come back to that. With an open mind, I hope my preconceptions about Golden Lab will be proving wrong, because hey, maybe it still has a place even without the graphical engine and licenses of F1 Manager or the multiple racing series and large modding community of Motorsport Manager. And the first impressions of Golden Lab clearly shows a game with a strong identity. The simplistic yet visually appealing menu system that greets you when you first start the game gives a clear sense that this is a game that knows exactly where it wants to go with its visual style. Golden Lab takes us back to 1970, where the first season begins. Just look at the glorious hairstyles on the drivers. It was a time when motorsport was raw and straightforward, without aids like DRS, radio communication, and certainly without the safety standards as we see today. The game's simple setup complements that era perfectly, as motorsport, especially Formula 1, was practically a different sport in the 1970s. After selecting drivers, an engineer, a crew chief and a sponsor, you're taken to the career main menu. From there, you could technically just press continue and you're underway with the qualifying for the first race. It doesn't really get simpler than that. However, depending on how much you spend on staff, you'll usually have some money left to improve the car's engine, chassis or steering. You can also choose to build entirely new components for a bigger performance boost, but at a higher cost and with the risk that the upgrade won't be significant depending on how skilled your engineer is. It's a concept that resembles Motorsport Manager, though in a much simplified form. It's not revolutionary, but it works. You can also send out a spy to copy a rival team's components or sabotage one of their parts. Both actions come with the risk of being discovered and receive penalty points. Qualifying works as a mix between practice and qualifying. All lap times count toward your grid position, but at the same time you tune the car on every lap using tuning points represented by yellow dots next to your engineer. The number of points and your success in achieving a high tuning score depends on your engineer's skill. The points are used to tune engine, chassis or steering, and it makes sense to consider the nature of the track. A circuit with long straights like Monza or Potenza, as it's called in the game, calls for a good aerodynamic and chassis tuning, whereas Monaco requires steering tuning, which affect cornering and braking. It's a nice way to combine qualifying with car setup. However, I do miss tire management, as there's an unlimited supply of tires available in qualifying. That means that the optimal strategy for qualifying is simply to send out your car as many times as possible to maximize tuning. The goal, besides securing a strong grid position, is to achieve a so-called golden tune. Golden Lab also accounts for track evolution, the phenomenon where the track improves as more cars lay down rubber. That makes it beneficial to send your car out as late as possible in the session while also ensuring a clean pit exit with clear air ahead, since traffic can affect lap times. The race portion of the game is without a doubt where the game truly shines. In my first season, I've experienced multiple races filled with unpredictability, close battles with the AI, and strategic decisions that have sometimes cost me dearly and other times paid off. Drivers can even show up hungover, because in 1970, professionalism wasn't quite what it is today. Driving at 300 km per hour with hangover, sounds like a brilliant idea. Let me just start by addressing this immediately. It rains a lot in Golden Lab. More than in real life, but without the rain, races will probably be far less exciting. Deciding when to pit for wet tires, which compound to start on if rain is expected later, or whether you can survive a short drizzle of rain on dry tires, these elements adds tension and makes up a lot of the fun in the race. The AI in the game is good and for the most part acts pretty realistic. Sometimes they pit too early, sometimes too late, and on a rare occasion using the dry tires for way too long into the rain. That being said, I do think it's relatively quick for a smaller team to start competing at the front. The two Ezzolinis are quite dominant, but beyond that, I managed to get one of my drivers fighting for the podium positions fairly quickly. We also need to talk about death. Yes, you heard that right. In Golden Lab, drivers can actually die in severe crashes. When it happens, a red flag is shown, the engine noise disappears completely, and all that remains is the bird song and the wind, making the situation feel very serious. The driver's condition is then revealed after the race. Sometimes they'll miss upcoming races, other times they just don't return at all. And that adds real tension to the championship. A leading driver can suddenly be removed from the competition entirely, opening up the title fight in a dramatic fashion. Interestingly, in real-life Formula 1, the 1970 season remains the only time a driver's championship was won posthumously. Austrian driver Jürgen Rindt tragically died during practice for the Italian Grand Prix, but had already secured enough points to become champion. So Golden Lab beginning in 1970 fits well with its minimal focus on safety and the presence of fatal crashes. The races are run at full distance, meaning 20 cars may complete 50 or 60 laps. Thankfully, you can adjust the speed, but you must be careful. You can change engine mode and driving styles during the race, increasing pace, but also at a risk. An aggressive driving style can cause crashes, while pushing the engine too hard may result in running out of fuel. After getting comfortable with the race simulation, I frequently adjust both driving styles and engine settings to defend and execute undercuts and overcuts. However, it never feels like heavy micromanagement, since they are your primary tools for influencing pace, aside from tire strategy and the timing of your pit stops. When the season ends, a driver's champion and a constructor's champion are crowned. Staff and drivers may gain or lose skill points depending on their career stage, and you can recruit new personnel to strengthen your team for the next season. Remember how I promised to come back to how the idea originated? Golden Lab didn't begin as a full production title, but as a small prototype called the 107% rule, created by Dune Casu, founder and director of Funselektor, after becoming hooked on Motorsport Manager during a free-to-play weekend in 2017. For years, the idea was shelved. Development stopped and started again multiple times due to limited resources. In 2023, the game was even cancelled because they lacked UI designers. But then Strelka Games stepped in. They were between projects, so in early 2024, Funselektor and Strelka Games partnered up. Strelka handled the technical development while Funselektor oversaw direction and quality control. And that collaboration allowed Golden Lab to finally be revived and released in 2024. So while Funselektor isn't typically associated with management games, the idea had actually been in development long before Golden Lab became a reality. So, is Golden Lab proof that less is more? Yes, but with reservations. It's not as deep as Motorsport Manager, and it doesn't try to be. The systems are simpler, progression is relatively fast, and smaller teams can compete with the front sooner than expected. And if you are a father like me, or just tired in the evening, there isn't always the mental energy for complex management games. After a long day of work, diaper change, cooking and bedtime routines, Golden Lab is refreshingly easy to start up. And we also need to talk about the price of the game. At €15, Golden Lab strikes a very reasonable balance. It knows exactly what it wants to be and what it doesn't. You get exciting races, strategic decisions, unpredictable weather, dramatic moments, and a satisfying career loop that's easy to get into yet still engaging. It offers excellent value for money. This isn't a game designed for hundreds of hours of gameplay. After around 15 hours, I feel like I've seen the most of what the game has to offer. But again, at €15, it's hard to complain. Golden Lab isn't the most complex motorsport management game on the market, but that's not the ambition. It's a streamlined, atmospheric, and occasionally dramatic take on the genre that understands the value of focus. And in a time when many games are becoming bigger, heavier, and more system-driven, there's something refreshing about a game that dares to stay simple. Less is more? In Golden Lab's case, yes, it actually is.